When people argue and tell me that I'm not making a traditional, like, typical, exactly how it was made paella, it's kind of like, oh, fuck yourself, man. Because it's already a mashup of cultures. Let me mash it up and make it my own culture. So this is a very traditional paella at Munchies. This is exactly how we make it here at Munchies since the first time I ever made it here at Munchies today. This is the new tradition. Hi, I'm Jamie Bissonnette, and we're at Munchies, and today we're gonna make some paella, which is one of my favorite things to make. We're gonna do one that's not completely traditional. We're gonna innovate a little bit, so if you are totally into traditional paella, stop watching. This is one of the ones that we serve at Toro, and people love it. I love making it, something I never get sick of, and it's all about building your flavors. We've got a paella pan. If you don't have a paella pan at home, you don't need one. You can use just any heavy bottom pan. Lot of surface area. The sides can't be too high, otherwise it won't cook properly. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take some olive oil. I love the flavor of olive oil in a paella. It's like building block for everything. We have some house-made chorizo sausage. While that's kind of cooking out, we're going to dice up an onion. If you're not so proficient with a knife or you don't want to cut your hands off, cut it into a quarter, and then you can turn it, do that again. That way you're not doing the this and the that and the crosshatch thing where you cut everything. It's no bueno. So as the onions are cooking in some of that chorizo fat, we're gonna add some salt. Adding salt early to onions is great because it pulls out some of the moisture, so the onions cook in like their own kind of fondue and get a little bit more flavorful. Remember, as you add anything to the pan, you're taking the temperature down. You've got to let it come back up to temperature or it's never gonna cook right. So if you just cut all your vegetables up and throw them in, you're gonna end up with something that just kind of boils, and you don't end up with that like layer of flavor. We want to really cook the onions out and the chorizo out and build that, and adding everything after that. So as the onions cook, we're gonna just kind of rough chop some garlic, and in it goes. And again, we lowered the heat down to about medium, so the onions cook gently. So we want the onions to cook and release their juices, the garlic to just cook, but we don't want it to fry, we don't want it to brown. Because once it starts to get that brown color, as it cooks more and more, it can get bitter. We want this to get sweet. Next, we're gonna take just the scallion whites. So you just wanna get it in there to cook. And I like having some texture like that. I like having some bigger pieces of the scallions because they're awesome. You can build the flavor with whatever you want. You might not be able to call it paella. You might have to technically call it rice with things, as a lot of people in southern Spain seem to like to do when they see me make paella, but who cares, man? So we're adding some red bell pepper. If you like spice, you can add poblano pepper. If you like it really spicy, you can add some habanero pepper. I like red bell peppers because they're a little sweeter. The green ones have a little bit more bitterness. So as we're cooking this, I'm poking the sausage a little bit because I can see the skin is starting to tighten up. I just want to release a little bit more of the fat. So I'll take those out now and let them cool for a minute. And while that's happening, I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken thighs. You can use any chicken piece you want. I like thighs because when they cook, they get more tender and stay kind of luscious. So you don't have to worry about the chicken getting fully cooked or seared. I like the way it just kind of cooks in with everything else. It's wicked tasty. I'm gonna crank the heat up a little bit to just about like a medium high. I'm gonna add a little bit of smoked paprika. We're gonna add some tomato paste. In Spain, you would make a sofrito. You kind of cook it down to a paste with olive oil and onion, sometimes garlic. At home, I don't go ahead and make my sofrito. I kind of make it in the pan. I'm gonna cut the chorizo just a little bit. That is a pretty damn good looking chorizo. So I can see that it's starting to stick in the bottom a little bit. So I lowered the heat, mix it around just a little bit more. Really want that sofrito to cover everything, and that's gonna help create some body. We're going to add our Kalisparo rice. So the rice that we're using today is one of the two kinds of rice that are pretty typical in paella. The great thing about this is it releases its starch so slowly that it doesn't get creamy like a risotto. If you don't have bamba or Kalisparo rice, don't make paella, make something else. You want to let it get hot again before you add anything else. I'm gonna add my clams. We're not gonna really need this much anymore because we don't want to stir it. And the more you stir it, the more you're gonna break up that starch and you're gonna end up with a paella that burns. And we're gonna add our stocks. That was vegetable stock. So when I make paella at the restaurant, we like to not just use vegetable stock, not just use chicken stock, and not just use lobster stock. We like to use a mix of all three. Want to give the liquid a quick little taste, and we can salt now. Thing about the paella, you want to season it as you go. You can't just add all the salt at the end, because then it'll be salty on the outside and the rice will be bland. And you can't salt too much in the beginning because then you're gonna end up with something that's just a complete salt bomb. So this is starting to go. You can see it's simmering, but it's not rapid boiling. Just put a fork or a spoon in the bottom and just kind of make sure it's not sticking. We do want to develop what's called the sokarat. And that sokarat is that like little kind of like caramelized bits in the bottom. So you get to the point where the clams are in and before they open up, the rice is cooking, and let it go. You've just got to let it cook. It's the perfect example of set it and forget it. You can't go too high. If you blast it, it's gonna burn on the bottom. If you go too low, the rice is going to explode and you're gonna end up with kind of a milky, shitty paella. You could use a little bit more liquid. So because my dumbass didn't measure anything, I have to taste it as I go to see how the rice is. And I know the rice needs to absorb just a little bit more liquid. Normally, you want to measure it out about 4 to 1. So if you have 1 cup of rice, 4 cups of liquid, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to season it a little bit more. When you season something like this, you want to season it high and let it fall everywhere. Let it get on your grill, let it get on your stove, wherever, because it's a liquid. And as the rice hits, it immediately absorbs. So if you just go right there, it's gonna be salty right there. So letting it fall like snow gets salt evenly distributed everywhere. Same with your salads, same with your steaks. Giving it a shake, you can see it's kind of moving, nice one big mass. We're gonna give it another check to make sure that we're not burning. And we're not burning, if you are, I know I said don't stir it, but if you feel like it's sticking too much, give it a scrape. We're gonna add our mussels now. We don't want to add the mussels when the rice is already cooked because we want the mussels to open up and flavor the rice. So kind of place the mussels wherever you want. I kind of do them scattered everywhere so it looks a little bit prettier. Then after I do that, I give it a quick shake. We're gonna add some of our shrimp. I like to cook my shrimp in the shell so you can peel them afterwards. Makes it a little bit messier, and I wouldn't do this at the restaurant, but I will at home because I feel like it makes it juicier and a little bit more plump, and I love that texture. The mussels, you can see, are opening up already, and so we don't want those to get overcooked. And then the shrimp last because we don't want those to get mealy. So the paella is just about done. Peas. I like a little bit of fresh peas in my paella. If you don't have fresh peas, use frozen, but don't put them in too early or they're gonna look like canned peas, and canned peas are disgusting. We're gonna take our scallion tops, that nice tender green part, and we're just gonna slice them nice and thin. So the last thing I do is just check the rice and make sure that it's cooked all the way through, that when you bite into it, you don't get any pearls of rawness, nice and plump, and you're gonna taste all that beautiful flavor. And one of the things that I love, whenever I've been to Spain and hanging out at friends' vineyards, they make the paella and then they let it sit for a while. Like we're doing other things and we go to it when it's kind of like not ripping hot and it's the perfect temperature to just put on a plate and shovel it in your face because it's so good, that's all you can do. Some olive oil, all right, burner off. Paella is done just like at home. I hope you like it. And if you're looking to get the recipe for this, click on the link below.